Hey there, guys. So, I realized it's been a while since I've actually done a book review. Mostly, I've been focusing on a lot of unofficial narrations, as you've probably seen on my channel. So, I figured I'd bring back to the original source of my channel's content and instead focus on expanding my little Warhammer playlist a little bit by talking about a recent book that I just wrapped up, and it was loaned to me by a friend of my younger brother's who is also a fellow Warhammer fan. And today we are going to cover His Last Command by Dan Abnett, and I'm hoping to God I did not just butcher that name, but let's continue on. So this book is actually a part of a larger series called Gaunt's Ghosts. Now for those of you who don't know, Gaunt's Ghosts is pretty much Dan Abnett's trademark series and what he's the most famous for, especially among Warhammer 40k fans who read the books. So the Gaunt's Ghosts currently has about 16 books in total, spanning the story of a single regiment known as the 101st, or jokingly known as the Gaunt's Ghosts. As evidenced by the title already, I'm probably repeating myself, but anyways, moving on. So His Last Command, from what I found out, is part of a trilogy in the series known as The Lost, where the Ghosts actually just returned from a major mission where they were trapped on a chaos-riddled world called Geryon. Now, me personally, I don't know anything about this as I'm still dipping into the Gaunt's Ghost story as a whole. But from what I can infer, Geryon is like a long-term mission with high casualty rate, with no possibility of coming back, because it was a major chaos-ridden world. However, the fact is, this covers Gaunt and his team returning from Geryon alive, but as soon as they return, they're immediately arrested by the Commissariat for the supposed belief of chaos taint. Seeing as how they were on a chaos-riddled world for months at a time, it was believed that they were possibly tainted by that ruinous power. And while we see evidence that shows that they have some increased senses and stuff like that, that's just from their time in that mission, which is referenced multiple times throughout this book. Though me not knowing the full story, I can infer that the ghosts themselves were traumatized by this, as well as Gaunt. So despite this, they managed to escape from their prison and managed to rendezvous with the commanding officer who sent them on this mission to Geryon in the first place, because he was the only one who knew about it and could provide evidence that this was an official mission. So, what ends up happening is that, through a sheer misunderstanding, Gaunt and the 101st are arrested, where Gaunt is immediately put on military tribunal for his actions of rebelling against a commanding officer, threatening him, I should say, as well as the possibility of chaos taint. However, Gaunt eventually comes out of the tribunal with his rank and everything else intact. However, he is separated from the ghosts as a consequence. So I really like how this book goes back and forth on a major campaign of what they call the Sparshad Mons, a major area that they are trying to claim in the Sabbath Worlds Crusade as of this current period of time in the book series, I should say. But anyways, so it goes back and forth between the ghosts who are put into a new military regiment, whilst also Gaunt is separated and put into another one to continue his commissar duties, or commissariat duties, I should say. So I really liked how this went back and forth, but at the same time, it addresses the whole Geryon mission in the background, like it's a constant haunting presence among these troops. They are very severely, heavily scarred by this, as you can tell by their obvious PTSD from this. But anyways, so throughout this whole book, it was really engaging for the most part, but it took me a long time to finish because at the time, my attention would wane here and there. Like it would come and go, come and go. So this one took me like a couple months to at least even get through. Because by the time I get home from my job, I'd be really exhausted and wouldn't be able to have time to read this. So The fact that I was able to actually get this done was a miracle in and of itself. Thank God for that. All in all, this one was a really enjoyable read, especially with the huge twist at the end, which I am not going to spoil. And if you want to find out for yourself, I'd recommend picking this up as well as any of the other Gaunt's Ghost stories. If you especially want a military-style fiction or hardcore science fiction story like this, 10 out of 10 would recommend this. Especially when it goes to how a commander has to deal with being separated from his unit, and the unit themselves has to deal with, I guess, what would be the right term here? Reintegrating, that's it. Reintegrating into a larger unit and learning how to operate under a different commander. So I liked that, how each of them had to learn to grow by themselves before eventually being reunited through the circumstances of this book itself. And dear God, I still love it. I still find a way for Warhammer to always captivate me. And I'm very excited to cover the next one whenever I get the chance. Or who knows, I might even cover another anthology book, which I have been recommended to actually try doing if I do another anthology, aka multiple short stories, to try to cover maybe 1 or 2 stories in separate videos. I might do that just to kind of branch out and really escalate my Warhammer playlist, as it's looking pretty sparse right now. But anyways, so to move on to the final score for this one. So in conclusion from my mad ramblings, I would give His Last Command by itself a solid 9 out of 10 for really well done storytelling, really helping to get us in depth into the characters, and overall just giving us a really interesting and hook-filled story that kept me going all the way through until the end, despite difficulties in my personal life preventing me from finishing it sooner than I would have liked. My only problem with it was that I was a little bit confused, seeing as how this one takes place further in the time frame, or further in the story, I should say, of the Gaunt's Ghost. So I was a little lost there. Other than that, I definitely would recommend this book solidly anytime someone recommends me a piece of military science fiction. I definitely recommend any Warhammer story involving these guys, and I really look forward to covering more stories if I can. I might just try it out with more short stories next time. But anyways, thank you all for listening, and this is Rambling Collector signing off once more. Feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And thank you very much. Have a good day.